happened before, and scientists know that it will happen again. The question is, when? A major volcanic eruption.
Volcanic eruptions will occur in the next 50 years. A Mauna Loa eruption is almost a certainty within that time. Mauna Loa in historic times has never gone 50 years. In fact, it's never gone longer than 25 years without an eruption. We know it's going to happen. The best we can hope for is that it won't affect populated areas.
While scientific monitoring may give us several weeks of warning before an eruption, history has shown that these mounds of fire and lava are anything but predictable. A 1975 eruption at Mauna Loa was preceded only by an earthquake 2 hours earlier. Hualalai has been silent for 200 years, but seismic activity reveals that it could reawaken any day now. Kilauea's current eruption is containable, but it doesn't always act as anticipated.
Kilauea has this reputation of being a volcano that never explodes, but we've learned in recent years that Kilauea does explode.
The simultaneous eruptions of Kilauea and Mauna Loa in 1984 raised even more destructive possibilities.
There's no reason to say that Hualalai, Mauna Loa, and Kilauea couldn't erupt at the same time.
There have been, on occasion, simultaneous eruptions. The probability is low, but we cannot exclude it.
With this in mind, here is but one potential mega-disaster, which scientists and emergency officials have theorized. 5 a.m., sometime in the near future at the height of tourist season. The small city of Kailua Kona is shaken from its slumber by a massive 7.0 earthquake emanating from the island's west coast.
There is no other emergency, probably, that generates a certain level of fear than an earthquake. They're unforecastable. They come surprisingly. We know that we're going to have structural damage to roads. People's homes will shift off the foundation. There is damage which happens to buildings.
The two-lane highway that encircles the island is broken apart in several spots, preventing travel along most of the west coast. The quake is also strong enough to interrupt power on the island, as well as on nearby Oahu. The state civil defense opens shelters and coordinates efforts to assess damage by helicopter. Small aftershocks are felt for the next 2 days, raising concern among residents, especially since power is still out on most of the island.
The dilemma with that is it affects radio's ability to broadcast. It affects our TV, so that, it'll have an impact on our ability to communicate with the public.
But the biggest concern is that all of the earthquakes may be signaling impending volcanic activity.
Mauna Loa is the biggest concern just because of the massive area that it dominates. Eruptions could occur and send lava to most portions of this island.
The tremors aren't emanating from the anticipated area around Mauna Loa. Instead, they appear to be originating farther north, beneath Hualalai.
Hualalai is very much an active volcano, although it has not erupted now for 200 years. But it has the potential of erupting again, clearly. It is not dead by any means. So most of the tourist resorts are on the west side of the island. So a reactivation or an eruption of Hualalai could be trouble.
Then the seismographs at the Hawaii Volcano Observatory begin going haywire. Trouble is indeed brewing in Hualalai. Though most are too small to be felt, more than 700 earthquakes have been recorded.
There are many people that live right on the flanks of the volcano, and if there is an eruption there, then lava could be pouring into people's yards very soon after the eruption starts.
The authorities make the decision to sound the alert sirens shortly before Hualalai wakes up from its 200-year slumber. Molten rock begins flowing to the coast. Within 35 minutes, the lava reaches the beachside resorts and Kona Airport. At any given time, there are an estimated 30,000 residents and tourists in the area. Most will be forced to evacuate. Many of these people will be able to return home in a few weeks, but thousands could come back to find all of their belongings buried under hardened lava. According to USGS studies, Property damage alone could easily be in the hundreds of millions. But the tragedy may not be over yet. Due to underground shifting near Hualalai's deflating magma chambers, Mauna Loa begins swelling even further. Indications point to a possible lava outbreak in the southwest rift zone, the same origin of both the 1868 and 1950 eruptions.
Mauna Loa's southwest rift comes down along the top of the mountain and does come into about 13% of Hawaiian Ocean view estates. It is inside the rift zone.
History has proven that anything is possible when it comes to volcanoes. So USGS volcanologists decide to prepare for potential disaster.
We would start getting ready to evacuate, setting up shelters, informing the community, going door to door with the police department if that's what became necessary, utilizing the helicopter and loudspeakers, the Civil Air Patrol and loudspeakers.
The people attempt to leave the island, but it is difficult due to the road conditions.
The ability to evacuate people in the event of emergency is a challenge when you have infrastructure that is limited with only one highway.
Then it gets worse. An 8.2 earthquake rips across the entire island.
You can consider the roads on the Big Island severed. You can consider possibly loss of life if an earthquake of that magnitude happened here on the south flank.
Aside from damage to just about every building on the island, the earthquake has also opened a fissure 2 miles long near the summit of Mauna Loa. Lava spews into the air, creating a wall of fire, and begins speeding down the southwest flank. But unlike 1950, hundreds of homes, not a few isolated ranches, are permanently buried beneath several feet of lava while it incinerates its way down to the water. Death is an inevitability for some, as there is only a 3-hour window of opportunity for escape. But the carnage still doesn't end. The lava and earthquakes will continue for weeks, destroying many farms on the southwest end of the island. With the destruction of homes, tourist resorts, and the agriculture industry, property damage could reach more than $10 billion. Building can begin again within a few months, though a full recovery may take years.